Welcome back to another episode of Bullyball. This time with a little post-draft breakdown. As usual, me, Alex, my co-host Joseph. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Excited to break down these players we got.
Yep. Alrighty, let's get into it.
Tony Montana, Tony Montana, Tony Montana, check up on my ear. Tony Montana, Tony Montana, Tony Montana, I'm about to cut the...
Yep, it's been a long couple days, If you guys want to see our instant reaction to most of our draft picks, you can go ahead and look at those in our previous videos when we went live. But now we'll give a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown of these picks. So first one, obviously, something I want to touch on real quick that just came out today was that according to Jeremy Fowler, that Debo is dug in on his trade request. So he said that he knows it might take some time for his situation to play out, but that he's dug in on getting traded. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we'll see. It's going to take some time to play out, but ultimately, I think he's playing for the 49ers next year, no matter what. So,
do you think, let's say that he does end up playing for the Niners, he doesn't get traded or anything. Do you think his attitude is going to affect the team and anything like that? Do you think the situation's already too far gone to where you can't really, fix it? Or do you think it's still able to be reconciled?
I don't think so because I think it is fixable, is what I'm saying. Because, like Shanahan said in his interview, he was surprised by the trade request. And, if it's an issue with usage or whatever, you can fix that. If it's an issue with the money, you fix that. So unless it's like some relationship issue or something like that, it's fixable in my opinion.
So would you still pay Devo the 25, 26 mil a year, but not be able to play him at running back, or would you rather trade him?
Well, if you think about it, when we were watching deep into the season last year, we were getting very upset with the amount of times they were handing to Debo up the middle. We're like, stop running him up the middle. It's not working. It's not what he's used for. What we liked was when he was used, on like outside runs, end arounds, outside zone. He was not an inside runner, and that's what they kept trying to force. So I think you can still use him on like end arounds, outside runs once in a while. But we did not like the way he was being used as fans. So I kind of agree with them there, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, that's interesting. And we'll get into these draft picks, but maybe that's what Tyree and Davis Price was brought in to do, to take those runs up the middle. He's kind of that bigger back, downhill, physical dude, Maybe that's what he was brought in so we could stop Debo from being used like that as a bell cow up the middle. So that's possibly something that running back was brought in, and something that can make the pick feel a little bit better. Not a lot, as we'll get into that as well. But so let's go ahead and jump into these draft picks. Of course, 49ers didn't have a first-round pick, as we traded it away last year for Trey Lance to trade up to get Trey Lance. So our first pick, round 2, pick number 61, was Drake Jackson, defensive end, USC. What are your thoughts on Drake Jackson and the pick in general?
So when I was live recording that selection, I was kind of confused with why they would take him. And I had said, one of the players I mentioned, I was like, I could honestly see them taking him here, but I don't understand it. And then as the board was falling, I had mentioned, like, no quarterbacks going had pushed all the talent that we wanted to fall to us off the board. So when you got to our pick, there weren't many options that I was like very high on at that pick. So I give it a B plus now, maybe an A minus on that pick, because you're taking a guy with upside. And I watched this video that I had mentioned to you. I think it's Thinking Football is the YouTube channel. They do a lot of like videos on prospects and stuff. And they talked about how Drake Jackson was misused. His freshman year, he was, I believe, 275 pounds. And he was basically just a edge, like pass rush, hold down the line, like against the run type player. And then he had a great freshman year. I believe he was freshman of the year in the Pac-12 or something. But then his sophomore year, they got a new coaching staff, made him drop down to 250 pounds. And then he was dropping in coverage a lot. And that is not where he excels at. He did decently because he is athletic. But the 49ers need to bulk him back up, keep him at around 275, 280 pounds. He bends around the corner, great. He has explosiveness that you saw in the freshman tape and once in a while, at the smaller frame, but bulk him up. He's going to play one-on-one a bunch of the time because Bosa is going to take the doubles, and just let him get after the pass or after the quarterback. So I give it a A minus, B plus, could develop into a great pass rusher in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. The 49ers have always been looking for that bookend edge rusher to go opposite of Nick Bosa. So I think this is, they try to get D Ford, which obviously didn't pan out to the way they wanted it to. So I think this is that pick to kind of hopefully be that bookend pass rusher. Like you said, I know he was misused, dropping in coverage. They need to keep him around 275 because he still is pretty athletic there at 275, to where you can still bend and have a little bit of power underneath him too. So yeah, I agree. I think it was a pretty good pick because, like you said, at that pick there wasn't a lot of players that we would have rather had right there.
Exactly.
I think next week we'll get into like a little shadow draft, but the talent at that pick, if we weren't going to trade down, was pretty bare. So I think that was the best player available. So yeah, I would agree. B plus for me for Drake Jackson.
Let me try to pull up. Yeah, here's the clip. 1 second.
And he had 103 tackles in 28 games, 25 for loss, 12.5 sacks, 2 picks, fumble recovery, and forced fumble at his time with USC. He was all Pac-12 second team twice, and then quarterfinalist for the 2021 Lot Impact Trophy at USC as well. So pretty successful career over there, I would say.
All right. I'm going to put up this one clip just to show. Can you see it?
Yep.
Just to show, the speed, because as we've said before, what the 49ers are missing is speed off the edge. But then he has that bend that only really elite pass rushers in the NFL have. So let's just watch this clip. And then the burst once he is around the edge to get to the quarterback. So you see the bend, hand usage, and then explodes. Just a really good clip, of Drake.
Yeah,
Jackson.
and that's
kind of shows what you're looking for with them.
Like you said, that speed rush, that's what we were expecting from D Ford, and it obviously never came to fruition. So hopefully Drake Jackson can be that D Ford type player that we were expecting originally. So that's definitely something that's intriguing.
What did you give that pick?
I would say like a B or a B plus, somewhere around there. Moving on, round 3, pick 93 is running back out of LSU, Tyrion Davis-Price. What are your thoughts? Let me get your thoughts on that pick
So,
and the player.
If anyone watched me live, you saw my reaction, and I'm pretty sure that was probably 99% of 49er fans' reaction as that pick happened, because you're like, we did this last year, and you saw exactly what happened. Like, just the value is not there for running backs that early, especially on our team with how many players we have there. But so when you grade the pick just based off of that, terrible grade, right? But when you look at the draft class as a whole and you just look at the player and not where they were picked, you start to see like, all right, this kind of makes sense, because we've said for years now the 49ers do not have that physical rusher that people are scared to tackle, right? And then last year, you kind of get that with Debo playing running back. You're like, all right, these dudes ain't really trying to tackle him. When you put on the tape of Price, you see a dude that's flattening people. You know, he's running over safeties, linebackers, and like he has great contact balance. He's getting hit and he just bounces off and keeps running. And so when you look at it like that, you know, our channel's named Bullyball because the 49ers play bully ball, but they really haven't had the bully running back. And he fits that mold, even if the scheme fit isn't there. So, you know, I'm still giving the pick a C, but it's a lot better than the F. And that's just based off of like what I said there, not where he was picked.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's not looking at the value of the pick where we drafted him, but just looking at the player. He's a good player. You know, he had over 1,000 yards rushing last year. I think he had like 9 touchdowns or so. So he had 6 touchdowns last year with 1,003 rushing yards. So he's a good player. I mean, if you go and look up LSU versus Florida from last year, he destroyed them. Crazy. And, you know, he's that downhill back that's just going to run people over, be that bully at running back, you know. And like we said, maybe we took him so he could run up the middle and put some intimidation into defenders like Debo did. And if usage is the problem, then this guy can take that over, you know, and it wouldn't be such a big gaping hole necessarily. One of my buddies is a LSU fan, and I asked him, what are your thoughts about the player just in general? And he says he felt like he came out a year too early. And the weird thing was that he was in a running back by committee that never really got going. He runs hard, but not a running back one, which is okay for the 49ers because they don't need him to be running back one. You know, you still have Eli Mitchell, who's going to be taking the bulk of the carries. And then you have him who could take those maybe early down or those like hard rushes for like 2 or 3 yards, you know, that Eli Mitchell couldn't have converted. Like we said, the value's not there though, because you have Eli Mitchell, Trey Sermon, who you got in the 2nd or 3rd round last year, Davis-Price this year, Jeff Wilson, JaMychal Hasty. You have 5 backs, not including Juszczyk. So one of them's going to have to go. And taking him that early, it's not going to be there, you know. The Niners find great success with those later round running backs. Eli Mitchell, Mostert was a late round running back. So, you know, the value's not there, and I agree. I'd probably give it like a C minus, just based on the value. Player-wise, good player, good running back. But value, yeah, I would have to say like a C or a C minus for sure. You have any other thoughts on him?
I think one underrated thing with them is LSU was bad last year. Like they weren't a good team, and he still had 1,000 yards rushing in the SEC. So that says a little bit about the person. But yeah, we basically broke it all down.
All right. Moving on to our next pick. Yeah, round 3, pick 105. Wide receiver out of SMU, Danny Gray. Go ahead and give us your thoughts on Danny Gray.
So Danny Gray, you know, he's the burner 4.3 guy, low 4.3s at that. You know, he has that speed once he gets the ball in his hands, and he has good yak ability just because of the speed. I was watching Eric Crocker this morning on Twitter. He was doing a little like film study of him against Marcus Jones from Houston. And you know, it wasn't very good because, you know, Marcus Jones is a good cornerback, and what Croc was getting at is Danny Gray has 4.3 speed, but when he's running his routes, he was not scaring Marcus Jones at all. Like he wasn't pushing him to like get out of his break so he could complete a comeback route or something like that. You know, I like the fit. The 49ers need the burner. He's going to have to work on his route running because, you know, he's not going to touch the field in Shanahan's offense if he's not, you know, scaring people or running his routes 100% all the time. But I'll give it a B minus, C plus, you know, just because he does add that threat, and you can, you know, have him run under routes where you kind of force him open just to get him the ball in space and stuff like that. So I'll give him that.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I think he's like the Marquise Goodwin type of player for Shanahan's offense, like the Travis Benjamin last year. Kind of just throw him out there just to threaten safeties and corners about running a deep go or a post or something, you know, just those deep routes. But I also feel like you can throw him those easy routes, those slants, those drags, you know, things like that. I don't think he's going to need a very diverse route tree just because he's not going to be the wide receiver 1, the wide receiver 2. You know, he is going to be that slot wide receiver 4 player. It's where you can just throw him fades, goes, posts, slants, simple stuff. You don't need him to run these comebacks, these all complex routes. You know what I mean? And he is that burner. He's young. He can develop, like we said. He doesn't have to be the wide receiver 1 or 2 right off the bat, or even the 3 because you still have Juwan Jennings for now. So he can have time to up his routes. Yeah, I like the pick too. I would give it I'd give it a B minus. Give it a B minus. I think he's a decent player. I think he'll fit the scheme well. Wide receiver room's looking a little cloudy right now, though, with how is Ray Armstrong going to fit into that? You know, so is it Ray Armstrong or Ray McLeod?
McLeod.
Ray Armstrong's a former linebacker for the Niners back in the not too long ago, but yeah. So decent player. Do you have any other thoughts on him?
No, I think we got into it. There is a guy later that I think, you know, might be a better fit, but we'll talk about it. All
right. Moving on to round 4, pick 134. Offensive lineman, tackle, guard, versatility. Spencer Bureford from UTSA. Go ahead and give us your thoughts on Spencer.
So Bureford, you know, I watched him before the draft, and he's one of those guys that plays violently. Like he fits what we like from an O lineman. He moves in space well. He gets to the second level. He's looking to take you down. Like he's not just trying to get in front of you. He's trying to defeat you in the hole and get you out of the hole. And he played left tackle this past year, and they had him pulling a lot, and he would just destroy people in the hole. And then in pass blocking reps, you know, I'm not saying he's Trent Williams, but he was trying to throw people like Trent Williams. You often saw him like just toss defenders out of the way. He did that a couple times. Probably a guard to me. I feel like he has the arm length of a tackle, and I think he's going to develop into a tackle. But if he were to start this year, it would be at guard. So, I think he's a good guy to get behind Trent Williams, let him work, learn from him. He has that versatility to play guard as well, though. And, maybe if McGlinchey's not ready, he could possibly play right tackle to start the year. But, a lot of upside. I could see him being a possible starter at tackle or guard. So I like the pick. That was probably my favorite pick up until that point, instant reaction wise. I'd give it a minus.
Yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit yesterday too in our live reactions. I said I think at worst case he can be a swing tackle, the 6th lineman, that swing tackle that can play left or right side. Best case scenario, he can start at guard, be a starting guard, or even a starting tackle, if it turned into that. He just fits our channel as a bully, and he fits the 49ers perfectly. He's athletic, like Joseph said. He was playing tackle and pulling and laying dudes out. He's doing all this. He's moving well, has long arms. The 49ers like that when they got Sean Coleman, who was a tackle from the Browns a few years ago, who never panned out because he was always hurt, but they liked him a lot. So, yeah, Bureford, definitely one of my favorite picks of the draft. I want to show this clip real quick just to give you guys a little hint of what we got with them.
And while he's pulling that up, Bureford was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, so he chose to play at the smaller school. He probably could have played, at a top school in college, and that just goes to show, like, the type of player you are getting.
All right, so here's Bureford right here, circled up, playing at left tackle, and just destroys that guy. Pancakes him twice. Throws him on his ass, boom, pancakes him again right there, boom. Just disrespectful. I mean, that goes to show what type of player he is. That's like a mini Trent Williams,
And you see it often,
Yeah, there's a highlight tape of him, and it's pretty impressive. So yeah, Fitz just a bully, definitely one of my favorite picks. I would give it an A. I'll give it an A flat, because that was one of my favorite guys for sure.
And I've said before, if you're an O lineman with a highlight tape, you're probably at least decent.
Yeah,
you're doing
exactly.
something.
And some stats for him real quick. He allowed only 2 sacks and 1 hit on the quarterback in 420 pass blocking snaps. So that's pretty impressive.
I believe his best game, was it Bureford? His best game was against D'Angelo Malone. I believe he was 3rd or 4th round pick, and that was his best PFF grade this year. So,
yep. All righty, moving on to our next one, which is round 5, pick 172. Cornerback out of Toledo, Samuel Womack. What are your thoughts on Womack?
So when they initially drafted him, I was like, I never even heard of this guy. You know what I mean? Smaller guy. I think he's like 5'9". He played outside corner at Toledo, and he had a bunch of pass breakups.
I believe he had 39 pass breakups in 41 games at Toledo, which is insane.
Some insane number. And he played Dwayne Eskridge last year, and I believe they said he had a good game against him. He was drafted last year by Seattle.
In the second round.
He played what's that one guy this year? Sky Moore this year, and it was an up and down game, but he competed, and that's a second or third round pick again this year. He's gonna play in the slot for us. He's kind of a ball hawk. Not many interceptions, but he gets after the ball, which is what you like, especially from a slot corner. He has speed, so not saying he's going to start, but at least you're bringing in a guy that's going to compete for the slot job this year. So with that being said, I give it a B, B or B minus. I haven't watched any film on him, so I can't give like a complete grade on him.
Yeah, so he's 5'9", 189 pounds, and he ran a 4.39 40. Like Joseph said, we don't really know who he is. We haven't watched much film. There's not a lot of film out there on him. But from what we have seen, a little bit that we have seen, he's physical. He likes to come up and make tackles, which is what the Niners like in their slot corners. If you look at K'Wan Williams, he was one of the most physical corners in the league at slot. So I like it. Like Joseph said, if anything, it's somebody that can come in and compete for that position. And, the Niners have always done extremely well in those later rounds, around those round fives, the Kittle, Dre Greenlaw, Hofanga last year. There's a lot of good players that the Niners draft in the 5th round and later. So I like it. I'll give it a B. Give it a B. Hopefully he can come in and take a job or something, at least be a solid special teams player at the very minimum. All right. Moving on, round 6, pick 187 is offensive lineman Nick Zakel. What are your thoughts?
So, didn't know much about him either. When I was researching him, you see he was a Senior Bowl guy, and the 49ers love their Senior Bowl guys. I believe he was a left tackle, right, in college.
Mm-hmm.
At the Senior Bowl, they had him playing right tackle and some right guard, and he was holding his own. He's an FCS guy. He was holding his own, got beat a couple times against the big high-level competition at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. But he was holding his own. People were saying he projects more as a guard, and I'll look it up when you speak about him, but he had like some insane RAS score. His athletic score, it was like a 9.7 or something. So 6th round, 49ers are betting on physical upside, and they believe they can develop the guy into a starter. So they're betting on the upside. I give it B minus. Could end up good, could end up a nobody, but I like that they're betting on the talent.
Yeah, I agree. This is another person that we don't know too much about. He's at a Fordham, which is a small school. Like Joseph said, who's a Senior Bowl player, so is Spencer Bureford. Yeah, I think this could end up like one of those Colton McKivitz picks, later round guy, probably just a backup. Ultimately, I don't think he'll end up winning like a starting job anywhere. If anything, he's just a depth piece to me. Yeah, I would probably give it a B minus as well, just because we don't know too much about him. I don't see much coming from him either.
Let me see 1 second. I'm trying to find his RAS score.
Let me see. You sent it to me.
Oh, it was a 9.85 RAS score, which was ranked 21 out of 1,298 offensive. They put him against guards from 1987 to 2022. So athletically, he's at the top of the charts, and that's what they're betting on with the guy. 6'6", 316. So, you never know.
The RAS score takes in a bunch of different metrics, like his 40-yard dash, the 30 yards, 20-yard split, 10-yard split, the shuttle, the 3-cone, vertical broad jump. Then it takes in his measurables as well, such as the bench, the weight, the height. So it's a bunch of things they put together, and then they culminate this one score. And his was a 9.85 out of 10, which is pretty damn good. So, like Joseph said, I think they're betting on that more than anything.
And I believe Bureford's was like a 7.8, but that dude's a monster. I don't care what his RAS score
was. Moving on, round 6, pick 220 is defensive lineman out of UCF, Kalia Davis. What are your thoughts on Kalia?
So the 49ers brought him in on one of their 30 visits, late in the process, right before the draft. And I've seen clips of him on Twitter, haven't found much film on him, but the dude went to college as a 6'2", 250-pound linebacker, and he ended up a D tackle. I forget what his weight is now, but you can see the explosiveness of a linebacker at D tackle on the amount of stuff I have seen on him. He gives you like light DJ Jones explosiveness vibes, but he tore his ACL 5 games into this season. So, I know a lot of teams had him rated high. They were saying he was probably going to be like a 2nd or 3rd round guy if he played the full season. So another guy, the 49ers are betting on him getting healthy, and they're betting on the upside. I give it, end of the 6th round. You're just taking a shot on a guy that probably was a 3rd rounder if he played the full season. I'll give it an A-.
Yeah, it kind of gives you Trent Balk vibes, taking those players that were coming off torn ACLs and hoping they can get back. That never ended up being anything. Hopefully this isn't the case with Kalia. So he is 6'1", 301 pounds. As Joseph said, he started in UCF's first 5 games of this year. He recorded 17 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack, with 3 quarterback pressures in just 5 games. So, that's pretty impressive. Just 5 games as a defensive tackle, too, having 4.5 tackles for loss, 17 tackles, and the sack. He is 6'1", 301, like I said earlier, and DJ Jones is 6 foot 321. So very similar measurables there. And I'm sure DJ Jones, he was taken in a later round, right? Or was he undrafted?
No, I believe DJ Jones was also a 6th rounder.
Yeah. So that might be what they were shooting for with Kalia right here. And he could be that too, because those first 5 game stats are pretty impressive. If he can come back pretty productive off of that ACL surgery, then that could be a pretty good pick. And the Niners are betting on that. So like Joe said, I'll give it a B+. I'll give it a B+.
1
Bet
second.
on the production there. I like it.
Let me pull up.
UCF.
I have one clip of him. Let me pull it up. Can you see that?
Yep.
So he's playing right here, if you can see my mouse.
Mm-hmm.
So, just explodes off the line, gets his hands on is at the center of the guard, tosses him out of the way, the guard, and makes a play in the backfield on the running back. Just powerful guy, he's explosive off the line. It's what you like to see.
And that's what DJ Jones was for the Niners. He was that disruptive force up in the middle of their defense on that D-line against the run, And if Kalia can come in and produce half that production that DJ Jones did last year, then shoot, at a 6th round pick too, that's very successful. So I'd give it a B+.
You have time to let him heal. He could redshirt a year because you have Kinlaw, Armstead. You brought in Ridgeway. So you have players there. You don't need them right away. He said he's
Yeah.
doing well in his recovery too, but good player.
All right, moving on to round 6, pick 221. So the pick right after Kalia is defensive back out of Penn State, Tariq Castro-Fields. What are your thoughts on Tariq Castro-Fields?
So I know a lot of boards were like up and down on this guy. Some people had him rated as high as like a 3rd rounder. Some had him like a 6th, 7th rounder around where he went. Croc also did a breakdown of him this morning. You know, he was watching a game of him, and basically he was saying like the dude has what it takes. You know, he was reading the receivers correctly. He was breaking on the balls correctly. He's aggressive as hell, and that bites him sometimes. You know, he'll read, a guy will break on a route and he's gonna jump it, and then the guy would double move him and he's beat. So, you know, Croc was saying, how do you manage his aggressiveness? You know, do you keep him aggressive because then he's gonna jump routes, he's gonna, you know, get some interceptions and stuff like that, but then he's also gonna get beat, kind of like
Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah. So, you know, he's not going to start. So he's going to get a play behind Charvarius Ward, E-Man, even Abby Thomas. You know, you got Dante Johnson, the old vet back there with them. So season the guy up, and then maybe you have a good player in a year or two. You know what I mean? Fast guy, too. I believe he's a 4.3 guy as well.
What's your grade on the pick?
You know, once again, you're betting on the upside. This one I give a B-.
Yeah. I don't have much else to say about him. I haven't done too much looking into him. So he had 30 starts at corner. He had 138 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 3 picks, 25 pass breakups, and a forced fumble. So pretty productive career at Penn State. Like you said, you've been on the upside. You know, you can never have too many good corners. If anything, if he can even just turn out to be what Dante Johnson is for the Niners now, that's a good pick at round 6. So I give it a B, betting on the upside. Hopefully he can fix his aggressiveness and hope something can come out from it. Any other thoughts on him?
Nope, that's it on him.
All right, and then moving on to Mr. Irrelevant, who's the last pick of the draft, round 7, pick 262, quarterback out of Iowa State, Brock Purdy. What are your thoughts on Brock Purdy?
So I remember, you know, a couple years back, people were pretty high on Brock Purdy. You know, they thought he was like, dang, this guy's pretty good. And I think that kind of fell off as the years went on. You know, I think the 49ers brought him in because I haven't watched much of this guy at all. So, but I from what I remember is he has decent athleticism. You know, kind of fits the mold of what Trey Lance is, just not the arm talent, not as athletic, but like, you know what I mean? Kind of a poor man's version, if you say that. But, you know, I think they brought him in, practice squad guy, kind of like what Nate Sudfeld was, you know, guy throw some passes, kind of give you that athleticism for the defense to play against, kind of like Trey did last year. So, I'll give it a C-. You know, it is what it is. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah. So in his senior year at Iowa State, he was AP first team All Big 12. He started all 13 games, breaking his own score record, and ranked 5th nationally in completion percentage at 71.7%. So fairly accurate guy. You know, I saw some things saying that he didn't have the biggest arm, but he was athletic, so he can run. I think decent pick. It's the last pick of the draft, so, you know, it is what it is. If anything, could be a great backup. So I'll give it a C flat. You don't expect to see him at all too much. So I don't have much more on him besides that. Let's you want to jump into these undrafted guys that we got here?
So first, what is your overall grade of the drafted players? You know, the draft class as a whole.
Overall, I would give it I'll give it a B minus. B minus with Tyrion Davis-Price kind of dragging that grade down a decent amount just because of the value of how bad of the value it was right there. What about you?
I would give it a B. You know, I was lower on it initially at first, but as they put the whole class together, I was like, you know, they left some pieces on the table that probably could have had an instant impact, but they looked to the future a little bit and they kind of managed that. And, you know, they brought in a lot of talented players. They bet on upside. You know, if some of them pan out, you could end up having, you know, like your Fred Warner, Kittle guys that you didn't expect them to be stars. They could have some guys that are stars because they bet on the upside, but it could go the other way too. You know, you could have the guys you bet on and then you're like, yeah, you failed on that one. So I'll give it a B. It kind of left me not feeling complete though. Like you were missing some things we should have had. So that's how I feel about it. Yeah. But I will say I am higher on the class because they didn't trade Debo. You know, the value was not there on a trade at all, and it would have been bad. So I give props for that at least.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into these undrafted guys that we signed.
All right, I have the list. I could name them off for you. You want to name them?
Yeah, we'll go down the list, give a little insight on them. Starting with the first one, we got safety out of Texas A&M, Leon O'Neal. What are your thoughts on Leon? I know you were kind of down on him throughout the draft.
So Leon O'Neal, he was another player that was ranged everywhere from like 3 to 7, you know, around 3 to 7. And I was down on him at round like 3. You know, I was like, nah, I don't see it. He's not as good of a tackler as you would like at safety. Misses a ton of tackles, but the dude plays with heart. You know, he's going to bring it every play, you know, kind of like gives you Adrian Colbert vibes from back in the day, remember? Yep. You know, the dude's going to play with his heart, leave it all on the field. And as an undrafted guy, I love the pickup. I just was down on him as like a early year draft pick, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think undrafted, you know, he can come in and compete. I know a lot of Niner fans were big on Leon O'Neal, so I like the pickup too. If anything, he can compete. I don't know if he'll make the roster, but just some competition. Competition brings out the best in people, so we'll see what happens with that.
I think he definitely will at least compete for a special team slot because, like I said, the dude, he's going to play with his heart, and, you know, he's going to try to make the damn team.
Yep. All right. Moving on, we got a center/guard, Donovan West out of Arizona State. What are your thoughts on Donovan West?
So a lot of people were ranking him as the number 1 undrafted free agent to get. And I know a ton of people, like fans of multiple teams, not even just the 49ers, would have been happy taking the dude in the 3rd round. So, yeah, that's I think that says what it is with that one. The dude, you know, I think he has a great chance to make the team. Not a lot of film. I've saved some ASU games to watch after this. So next week I'm going to have a better I'll give you better insight on him. But I know tons of people were high on him. The NFL wasn't, obviously, but seems like a great pickup just based on everyone else I've been seeing. So,
yeah, I was one of those people that was pretty high on him. I thought we could have taken him in like the 4th, 5th round, but to get him undrafted, I mean, the value's great. With Alex Mack's future up in the air right now, I think it's a great signing, especially undrafted. I mean, obviously, there's a reason he went undrafted because I'm just a fan. Joseph's just a fan. We're not the actual scouting department who sees these dudes, who meets them, who goes through every single snap, who does all this, that, the other. So obviously, there's a reason he went undrafted. But from a fan's point of view, I love it. I watched a little bit of him. I thought he was super athletic, pretty good in pass blocking. I think he fits the scheme perfectly. Definitely one of the top centers of the draft. So I love the pickup for sure. Moving on, offensive lineman out of Minnesota, Sam Schluter. What's your thoughts on Sam?
I didn't really find anything on him, if I'm being honest with you. So, I don't know.
Yeah, same. All right, linebacker Jeremiah Gemmel out of North Carolina.
I saw he was another guy that people were saying, like, this is one of the top undrafted guys available. I have a couple videos saved to watch of him. So once again, next week I'll have a better breakdown on if I think he's going to make the team or not. But just from what people are saying online, seems to be a good pickup undrafted.
Yeah, I agree. Next guy, linebacker out of San Diego State, Shagoon Alubi. What are your thoughts? Do you have anything on him?
Unknown on him for me.
Yeah. Corner/safety out of San Diego State, Taylor Hawkins.
I looked up his stats, and this past season he seemed to like finally break out. 5th-year senior. He had like 10 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, a ton of tackles this past year. I saw some San Diego State fans commenting online saying like that's a good player, So I think he'll come in, compete. We'll see with him, but seems like a upside type of guy.
All right. Next one, DB out of UCLA, Quantrez Knight. Anything on Quantrez?
Seems like an interesting pickup from what I was reading online. I'm pretty sure he played at like 3 different colleges throughout his college career. So, interesting one. I have some tape to watch of him as well, and then I'll have a better understanding, but seemed to bounce around a lot in college.
Next one, wide receiver out of Pitt, Taysir Mack. Any thoughts on Mack?
Taysir Mack is an interesting one. He was a pretty productive guy in college. He seemed to have like 300 to like 700 yards every single year in his college career. Watching a tiny bit of film on him, he seemed like a decent player. He's going to come in and compete for a spot. Don't know if he makes a team, but he seemed like a guy that might be a sleeper. He might go into the preseason and you're like, hey, who is this guy making some plays? So I would be aware of him.
Next player, we got a wide receiver out of Oklahoma State, Tay Martin. Anything on Tay Martin?
So Tay Martin is the guy I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Danny Gray. Tay Martin, I was watching him before the draft. He played at Washington State for 4 years, or 3 or 4 years, and he was pretty productive there every single year. Let me pull up his stats in college. But he then transferred to Oklahoma State for his final 2 years, and his first year there didn't produce at all. He had like 100 yards. And then this past year, he was a 1,000-yard receiver, had a ton of touchdowns. So let's see. Washington State, as a freshman, he had 360 yards, 6 TDs, 11.8 yards per catch. Sophomore year, almost 700 yards, 8 touchdowns. Junior year, 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then he transferred senior year to Oklahoma State, had 150 yards. And then as a fifth-year senior, he had 80 receptions, 1,050 yards, and 10 touchdowns, 13 yards per catch. And then he went, I believe it was to the Shrine Bowl, and he was cooking everybody, in one-on-ones and everything. So this is a guy I think could, be the guy, the undrafted wide receiver that makes the team. I was watching some clips of him on Twitter, and one of the online analyst guy was like, looks like Kendrick Bourne. So I was like, oh, well, interesting. Interesting thing to say.
So he's his size, he has decent size, he's 6'3", 186. So pretty good size right there on him. He had good games this last year against Notre Dame, 10 receptions, 104 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's definitely a game to go watch some film on. And then also in the Big 12 championship game, he had 9 receptions, 88 yards. So another good game. So there's some games to go look at, Go check them out. Could be a big grab for the Niners from the undrafted people. And then next one we have defensive tackle out of Fresno State, Kevin Atkins.
A lot of 49ers media people were saying, he pops on tape. He's a good player. 3 technique type guy. I haven't seen much of him yet, but from what I was reading, he has a chance to make the back end of the roster, maybe practice squad guy.
All right. And then do you have anybody else? I have one more, obviously, that we both know about, but do you have anybody else besides him?
No, I'm pretty sure you said everyone. It was 11 people, right?
I think we got a running back from Georgia Tech I didn't mention.
Yeah, there's 2 running backs. So there's actually a couple more people. DB from Stanford and UCLA, he played at both. Obi Ebo, he was at the 49ers local pro day. I don't know much about him, but he must have shown something at that local pro day because they brought him in. Running back from Georgia Tech, Jordan Mason. I saw that he was a consistent producer there, and I know you looked into him a little bit, so you got anything for us on him?
Let's see. I know he had I saw a decent clip of him running for Georgia Tech. Obviously, Georgia Tech runs like a wing T offense, so their stats aren't going to be as consistent because the quarterback runs a lot. The different wings run a lot, then the running back gets some, fullback. Like, the ball is distributed very weirdly over there. But pretty productive, Freshman year, he had 108 attempts for 659 yards and 7 touchdowns. Sophomore year was his best year with 172 attempts for 899 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then junior year, he had 82 attempts for 352 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then last year, he had 87 attempts for 439 yards and 1 touchdown. So, I mean, just another guy, 6'1", 218. I don't think you can expect much from him, maybe a practice squad guy at most.
And then we have Oregon. Well, he played at Oregon, and then he transferred to Boise State, running back Cyrus Habibi Lyko. He was a 4-star running back for Oregon. Didn't really ever produce there. Transferred to Boise State, had a decent year. Pretty good pass catcher out of the backfield, though. Not much that I know on him besides that he caught a decent amount of passes this past year. He has a ton of touchdowns throughout his career for some reason. Not a lot of yards, but a ton of touchdowns. Let me pull up how many touchdowns he had throughout his career. It's kind of insane. So his freshman year at Oregon, he had 18 attempts for 36 yards, 7 touchdowns. Sophomore year, 85 attempts, 337 yards, 10 touchdowns. Junior year, 19 attempts, 4 touchdowns. And then senior year at Boise State, he had 107 attempts, 374 yards, only 2 touchdowns. But then throughout his career, he caught 37 passes, 311 yards. So, probably nothing, but I guess kind of interesting.
Here's I'm gonna pull up some stuff on Jordan Mason, the running back from Georgia Tech. This guy says that he could possibly be like a Jermichael Hasty role. So let's roll some tape here. We'll start up here.
Is he a pitcher?
Huh? So here he is right there.
He catches.
Boom. On a pass, pretty fast. He looks pretty fast too. Takes that ball for some good yardage too on like a little out. Boom. Pretty good little run, little running catch. Here he is again. Right over here on a little Texas route. Boom. Good catch. Make some yardage out of it.
Looks pretty comfortable catching the ball too.
Yeah. It was a good route too. Broke down that linebacker. Looks pretty fast.
We've said we would like to upgrade that pass catching, running back role.
Yeah. Here's another one. This is actually him running it. He looks fast, he's pretty agile too.
And we know the 49ers are great at bringing late round and undrafted running backs along. So if one of those two dudes makes a team and they produce, don't be surprised.
Yeah. Because if you remember, Matt Breida was an undrafted running back too.
Matt Breida undrafted.
Right up the middle, just shoots off,
And kind of what upsets us about the 3rd round running back, Matt Breida undrafted, Elijah Mitchell, 6th rounder. And then you had Joe Williams. I don't even think he played a down.
Yeah.
Trey Sermon, good player, was on the bench. And then now you bring in another 3rd round running back. So, that's what upsets us about that pickup. But anyways, another guy the 49ers brought in, UNC tight end Garrett Walston. Bigger guy. I looked up his stats, not much production, but tight ends, you never know, because George Kittle didn't have much production in college either.
49ers love their undrafted late round tight ends, Ross Dwelly, Kittle, what's the guy that played last year a lot?
Warner, Charlie
Warner, yeah. He was a later dude too, so who knows? Was that it besides the one? And then, of course, save the best for last. Previously on this podcast, one of our favorite players in the draft, who we spoke into fruition. We said our 25 followers would make it happen. The 49ers got him. Offensive guard, center, fullback out of Mercer, Jason Poe.
Yes, sir.
Jason Poe, the guy, our boy, got signed by the 49ers as an undrafted free agent.
And if you're still watching, we'll try to drop the link right here to our interview with him. Great guy. You know, we dropped some highlights on there and had him break them down for us. You know, the dude's going to come in and he's going to compete his ass off. You know, he's going to play whatever the 49ers want him to play. He's going to do whatever it takes to make the roster. And, you know, he brings that versatility. You know, I would not be surprised if he beats Donovan West out for a center job because he has the athleticism that the 49ers need at center. You know, I'm just happy the guy's on the team. He's going to come in and compete, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited for him.
Yeah, super cool guy, super humble, you know, came on our podcast, which only had 25 followers, and showed love. You know, we reach out to him every now and again, wishing him good luck before the draft, and he gets back to us saying, yeah, like, thanks. I hope the Niners get me too. And then he ends up signing with us and then at the end of the draft, undrafted. So super cool guy, you know. Definitely going to need those Jason Poe jerseys sent to the boys over here for our studios. But yeah, Jason Poe, I mean, besides from being a great guy, like we said, go watch that interview and you'll see the highlights against Bama, against Fedarian Mathis, who was like a second or third round pick. And he puts in work, you know, he shows up. So definitely go look at that interview. Let us know your guys' favorite draft pick and favorite undrafted player in the comments. Let us know what your guys' favorites are.
So how would you grade the undrafted haul?
Undrafted all has to be like an A plus for sure. You know, you're getting a lot of solid dudes there that can, at least if you can get an undrafted guy and just have him be a special teams player, that's a success, you know? So I think you're getting a few of those guys at the very minimum. So I'd give it an A.
Yeah, I give it an A as well. I would not be surprised at all if two to three of those guys make the team, you know, maybe even four, but more like two or three. Ton of talent. You know, you remember how I said earlier after the draft, I was feeling like, you know, it was good, but it wasn't enough to make it feel complete to me. You bring in the undrafted haul with the drafted haul, and you know, I think you're going to have a ton of competition in camp. You know, we said our O-line was a weakness, and you didn't bring in anybody to say like, all right, our O-line is complete. But you brought in guys that are going to compete, and you're going to put out 5 people on the field, you know, at the start of the season, and you're going to be like, all right, we can feel comfortable that we did our best with what we had to make Trey, you know, give him the best line that we could.
Yeah.
Same thing with like your wide receiver room. You brought in a bunch of people in free agency and in the draft and undrafted, where you know you're going to have a complete receiver room this year. We felt like we were missing speed, you know, you brought in some speed. DBs, you brought in ton of DBs because we knew our DBs were weak last year. You know you're going to put out the best that you can on the field. So, you know, I once you put it all together, I think the 49ers did a great job. Surprised there were no trades at all. But overall, I give it an A- with everything all together.
Yeah. I think overall I'd give it a B plus, you know, pretty successful. Undrafted class is great. Drafted class is pretty good. Values sketchy at points, but overall pretty good. I think you're going to get a lot of production from these rookies. There's a lot to look forward to in the future, you know. Hopefully we can keep Debo as well. So I'm excited. Definitely excited. You got any closing thoughts?
Nope. Just make sure you guys, you know, check out these players. Let us know who you like. And also next week we'll have our shadow draft where we go back and look and say, at this pick, this is who I would have took. So, it's going to be fun. The season's rolling around, pay Debo, man. Pay Debo. And, I'm getting excited. I'm ready for camp to roll around, rookie mini camp. We're going to start seeing some plays. The 49ers dropped some plays of the camps. It's getting exciting. Season's almost rolling around.
Yep. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out that Jason Poe interview to see what type of guy we're getting on the squad, Stay tuned. Got some exciting stuff coming up on the podcast too. Yep.
Bring it back. Money.